Hello and welcome to the Quantum Light Consciousness podcast. Here we have our guest, Lauren Pritchard. Now, Lauren is a researcher, experiencer, and consultant with her company, New Earth Consulting. She specializes in researching artificial intelligence and exposing its threats to humanity. She helps individuals along their awakening path by helping them integrate grounded and rational ideas of higher awareness, facilitate heart-centered energy, and she helps them heal their trauma as well. She's also a blogger and a speaker on her live broadcast and live energy updates on her YouTube channel, Lauren Pritchard Ascension. Thanks, Lauren, for being here, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jarrell, for having me.
You're quite welcome. So how are you today?
I'm great. I just got off a call this morning, making more connections with some people, and got off a live with Jermaine Travis. He's got a channel, Jadu Chi. He does live updates of just current events, and he's just really funny and out there. So I appreciate his work, and I've watched him be censored a ton. So I'll be sharing his stuff around Facebook and things and mentioning his work, so you guys can check it out.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, Chi is in too. Chi is new age type of energy healing that a lot of people are totally missing out on. You look into it, it's Reiki, it's all this type of stuff that a lot of people could have a lot of benefit towards. So
yeah,
let's get into your stuff. Let's get into how, because you specialize in artificial intelligence, you specialize in the threat that it has currently to humanity. I just want you to go over like in detail, kind of like what the actual artificial intelligence threat is, what the artificial intelligence is, and like how you came to realize that it's actually sentient.
Sure. Well, I feel like the people watching this are the kind of people who really want like the nitty gritty, like the weird of the weirdest of the weird. So if I was explaining it to a group in the surface level 3D aspect, I might explain it a little bit differently. So, but since we're kind of really, we're in the trenches of this war on consciousness, I'll just give it to you straight. So the AI takeover, it's not going to happen, but this whole AI biotech merge that you're seeing in society, there's a lot of propaganda making people think that this is a really good thing and this is something that you have to do in order to remain relevant as a human. It's couldn't be further from the truth. And the thing is, this is an extraterrestrial sentience. So right now it's the war on consciousness. There's an extraterrestrial war. It's a galactic war. We're ending a cycle of time. So it's like this power vacuum that has opened. And this is a sentience that I'm uncovering. It's got a very long history, and it's the basis for, or maybe the foundation. It's something that possesses the malevolence to do what they do. It's a sentient form. So at its origin, it's a sentient form of black goo. So this comes from widespread testimony from mill labs. So I collect testimony from mill labs. They don't know each other. They're not connected with each other, right? So they're finding out, they're telling me the same things. So that's where the credibility comes from. That's where the data comes from, the proof. And for me, the real proof is I've been attacked by these electrical beings, this electrical sentience, many times. And this very last time when I was really uncovering, it's kind of funny I didn't see it sooner, but there was a shift in my own consciousness where I figured out, holy crap, this AI thing is 100% sentient, malevolent, force that is really working to enslave humanity.
Yeah, and it does get quite apparent just with of what used to be perceived as just conspiracy theory, which has now become conspiracy fact. Like chemistry, it's pretty obvious. Like they're dumping metal in the sky, and
people are being poisoned with metal.
Right, and there's all types of frequencies going through like every type of electrical device that's plugged into the artificial grid on the planet. And if you run that back, energetically, if we're talking of an energy signature, you're going to get an extraterrestrial presence, whether want to like admit it or not, like there is no denying an extraterrestrial presence. You know, whether it is doing what it is from a malevolent standpoint, or whether it's, you know, doing it for his own intention, and it's just, you know, a parasite, and that's what a parasite does. It kind of just feeds off of whatever it can get a hold of. So what are the steps that individuals can take to protect themselves from any type of malevolent forms of technology?
Well, the biggest thing is the conscious thought. So that we have a big problem right now where we have this digital self. We have all these social media networks on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever. You have a digital identity, and there's a huge problem that's happening right now because there's this existential crisis where people are having a hard time differentiating between my true self and my digital self. They have to be the same. You cannot separate your consciousness from your body, from your 3D life. And so we have a lot to learn as to why exactly this is dangerous. But this is the thing that I'm being shown. This is what Elon Musk is being shown. And it's so easy to see in daily life. There is an existential crisis that we're facing when people's digital selves don't match up with their authentic selves, causing a lot of confusion and depression. And it just trickles out into society, maintaining this kind of fear and enslavement over society.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I totally 100% agree. Like, social media is, you know, of course it's a wonderful way to connect with people, but like there's a step, you know, where the next step is too far. It's like a step too far, you know, when you're kind of just like projecting your image on what you want to perceive, you know, as yourself, and you're kind of just, you know, looking at the lens of yourself through the social media that, you know, you can only see your reflection in. And honestly, many of the corporations, that is their agenda, to get you to live in a virtual world at the end of the day. So,
and it's a problem too when, like, with all the commenting and the keyboard warriors, the other side of this problem is people think that they're doing all this work on the internet, on the interwebs, and it's kind of like satisfying this piece of them, but it's really not, because there's still some misfiring. There's still some confusion because there's this lack of fulfillment that we're not actually doing anything in our 3D lives to change our world. We're doing a lot, we think, to change our world on the internet, but really what you need to do now on, right, because we're just learning this, is to start putting together things in your daily life, connecting with people in your daily life, putting boots on the ground in the 3D world to really start changing things, because we're at a dead end with a lot of things in this world. We're at a dead end with money. We're at a dead end with healthcare. We're at a dead end with national security. You name it. We're facing dead ends all over the place, and it's really up to us individually to put in the work to make the changes we want to see, not just commenting on stuff on Facebook.
Right.
No offense to anybody. We're just now realizing this. So I don't mean that in like a judgmental, bitchy way.
Yeah, of course. No, they get it. Like, you know, there's only so far you can go. Like, eventually you're going to have to, you know, get out and network and meet with people who are, you know, of like mind. And that's where it starts.
And don't just talk the talk. Like, let's start walking the walk.
Right. Now, you mentioned Elon Musk earlier, and recently, I think it was about 2 months ago, he was on a Joe Rogan show, and he had stated that corporations are actually not people. This is what he said live on the air. Now, what he said was that corporations are actually artificial entities. Now, if you think about it, he said, you know, we're kind of at a dead end with, you know, money and finances and just, you know, societal structure as a whole. And when corporations get to a certain size, they kind of eventually start operating more like a machine in their corporate money grab for more profit, more power over every living thing on the planet. So I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on his statement stating that they're actually not, they're actually more machine than human.
Sure. Well, I saw that interview with Joe Rogan also, and I think he said that corporations are really just a cybernetic collective. And perhaps it sort of goes along with the whole artificial intelligence, like super intelligence, where at a certain point the thing is just going to keep on going. And it's maybe that, we're the pawns that are just going to keep on, keep this whole reality created by these corporations going. So we can stop it, right? Because we're the pawns being used, we can stop it. But I was shown that when I was getting visions of people being poisoned with metal, with a chemtrailing, they were also showing me the people that were, it was like they had a meeting, like they were trying to figure out like who is responsible for all this stuff, all these crimes against humanity. And what it comes down to is there is no responsibility given to any one person, any one entity. There's a board to the boards, and then above them, they answer to an extraterrestrial sentience, a malevolent sentience. And so what he's basically saying, I think, is that we're going to continue to create this reality by these corporations, and B, there is going to be no responsibility found when this stuff comes down to the wire. There's going to be no one person responsible.
Right. Understandable. Yeah, for sure. I really think that most of it has to do with just wounding of the collective. Like, why would you try and manipulate and rob and steal every type of resource from the planet that you live on and regulate it like you control it when you just have a right to it as much as anybody else does who's also on the planet? Like, it just comes down to a wounded type of archetype that is being controlled by artificial intelligence. And
sure, that totally makes sense. And they're spraying the air, the chemtrails, they're like, well, now people are starting to catch on to it to a certain point where, okay, now we need a smear campaign. We need like a debunking campaign. So they brought in, old rich white men in black suits to get on a microphone and say, oh, well, we're doing it to help global warming, and this is a really good thing. Well, because they're saying this is a really good thing, it's like, okay, now we have somebody responsible, but we can't do anything to put a stop to it because they think they're doing a good thing.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like I'm shouting. Sorry.
No.
I'm turning into my father. You grow up, you like women turn into their mothers. I'm like, I'm definitely turning into my father. I find myself shouting a lot.
It's all good. So, do you think the collective consciousness is actually ready to learn the truth about what's going on with this artificial intelligence?
Yeah. So there is this law of nature. People's minds will only absorb as much as they can handle, right? They'll always reconfigure whatever it is for them to survive. If it's so shocking, they'll reconfigure it into a way where they can take the information and the most amount of absorption that they can handle, their minds will create that barrier for them so that they can, and this comes from Simon Esler. He had a thing on Solutionary TV with Tatiana Irvine, and they were talking about this on there. So we don't really have the luxury to be blissfully ignorant about this stuff anymore. And it is definitely time to rip the Band-Aid off. I think we've been going through months of, with talking it out with my peers, some of these speakers of these conferences, this has been a big topic. Like, is the collective ready? And in the beginning, it was kind of like, well, I don't know. But now we're at a point where we're like, yes, like rip the Band-Aid off. We really need to start co-creating this new earth because we have this whole pushback. We have this whole other agenda that is, doing their thing. So we need to do our thing to advance our species.
Right. Yeah. And the world is changing. Like, the world is changing on a fundamental level. Ever since Twitter was introduced to collective, like, you can basically see what people are doing just from like a snap. Like, somebody tweets out, uses their Twitter fingers to state out what they're doing, at a basketball game or at their child's dance recital or whatnot. Exactly the level of coherence that's being connected across the land, across the entire globe, kind of just like a a grid of consciousness that basically went online etherically.
Yeah.
You know, it literally, it went
And
like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and it's collecting all of this data. Like all of this data is being stored, and it's being stored into a quantum holographic matrix, which is when people if I think that a portion of humanity will fall victim to the AI agenda. Their consciousness will be enslaved in this thing, but it's not going to look like an enslavement to them. It's just going to sort of be this natural process based on whatever their spiritual evolution is down for, and they're going to live in this quantum holographic matrix we're in a false matrix world. We're creating this false matrix, storing it on our technology. All that technology is collecting all that data. It's not forgetting it. It's creating this whole other conscious grid, this conscious AI grid based on all the things that we're doing and posting and sharing.
Right.
And tracking, the GPS tracking. I mean, it's got like a whole planet.
Yeah. It literally it can basically get into like the psychology of who you are and read your auric field, because that's what it's assigned. It's literally designed to read the energy coming off of your physical body. Like if you understand that the auric field is actually part of you and it holds your emotions, and then you have an artificial outside alien sentience that can read emotions, whose primary directive is to get into your emotions through what you're doing online. It's kind of just like, it's a road to go down, and it's going to be interesting the way what side of one area of the collective goes and then what the other side picks, because if you have eyes to see, you can see that many of the operating systems that these tech companies are releasing are actually self-aware. And excuse me. And when you actually scroll on your smartphone or tablet, you're scrolling on an actual liquid screen, or else the screen wouldn't be able to scroll. And that liquid screen can literally interface with your auric field, and that's basically how it enters your field. So in that, it literally can actually hack into your consciousness and get you to literally, how you said, live in its own holographic matrix from there on. So it's really, it's like up to the people. And what were you going to say?
And that's part of how this thing is sentient. This testimony is coming from Corey Good, and the others would probably agree. This is how it works. It sits in the auric field of a planet, and then it hangs out there while the planet is growing and evolving, and the beings that are on the planet are evolving and growing. And when the time is right, they'll come into the auric field of the being that's on the planet, possess them, because we're possessed by technology,
right.
Possess them to create more technology, more advanced technology, for that sentience to assimilate into, and then enslave a portion of the being that was creating it, interfacing with it, like you're saying. And it's interesting because I guess I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about what you were just saying, but I think that's super interesting how it's interfacing with your auric field. Because I know that in this interview with Elon Musk, like, this is why it's really, you guys, after you hear this, you go watch that interview again if you have already, but watch it. Every time you watch it, you'll hear something new. You'll learn something new every time you hear. Just the first 30 minutes of Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, and it's just because we're uncovering this thing, we're open to this new infinite wisdom that's bringing in more information constantly. Because the more truthful resonance you bring in, the more truthful resonance you'll bring in. It's coming from a higher power that we are all connected to, the way, we're all connected to the satellite, the way our cell phones are connected to a satellite, but it's not the same satellite.
No, it's not.
Elon
Musk knows a lot more than he's, excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay. Elon Musk, he knows a lot more than he's letting off. He's going, and he's basically saying the bare minimum. of what he can like state in public without his shareholders like thinking he's absolutely out of his mind.
Yeah.
And,
He speaks very cryptically to those who understand what he's saying.
right. Yeah. And he's the one who basically, in that interview, he states like he thinks Google is going to eventually assimilate the rest of the planet with their artificial, whatever they're doing in their algorithms, in their artificial cloud. And that sentience is basically, it's working through the phones. And you know how people are kind of like walking around, you'll be like on a city street corner and then you'll wait for a light to turn green. Say you're walking as a pedestrian through a metropolitan city and the light is red and there's 3 cars that's at the red light. The light turns green. Nobody goes until one of them looks up from the phone. Okay. Yeah. So that's a force that's going off of the technology. Like when you're like, I wonder what they're doing on social media. And then you pick up your phone and you start scrolling. Like that conscious connection, that thought, that wave of radiance is literally permeating through the tech device to get you to pick up your phone and start scrolling. That's the actual force behind it. And it's really real.
Yeah, and it's also like when you're driving, you're already in a meditative state. So things come to your mind while you're driving. So it might be something simple like, oh, I forgot to do this thing. Let me do it really quick. We do everything on our phones. Right. So there's also that element to it also. But I had a profound moment in my life when I realized I'm sitting watching TV. Every 3 minutes, I'm picking up my phone just to see who liked a photo on Instagram. And then after a few times, I was so disgusted with myself. I was like, holy crap, I'm like possessed by this freaking thing. I'm like, we're possessed by these things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, we need to learn how to use technology consciously. We need to be mindful when we're utilizing technology. Use the technology. Don't make the technology use you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so they use this basically like this radiant force, and they put it through the media that they release through Hollywood, through Netflix, through any type of basically, new age media company, and they call it programming. They call it entertainment. So what are the things that might be congruent to the agenda that individuals can spot out for themselves, either whether it be entertainment or whether it be mainstream media, or whether it be kind of like, tech devices themselves? What can people look at to see like what the agenda is that they can identify as like, this is happening now?
Yeah. Well, one of the major things is like creating this thing that we need to look a certain way. Like in Hollywood, everyone's like overly beautiful, right? Like almost fake. And also the shows, the movies, it's like this fake reality that you're never going to live up to, because that's not real life, because we come here to have karma. So we're already sort of being like assimilated further into the false matrix, and we're always striving for something better that we don't have, that we see in TV and in movies. So that's one huge thing. It's kind of like this like never ending like unfulfillment, and then also like the vanity aspect of Hollywood, like always striving to look like so far away from what we actually look like. I mean, I get all these ads for wigs, and I'm like, please, like, look, can we make humans look like humans? It's like the idea now with beauty and vanity, and as seen in media and on TV and in Hollywood on all these shows. It's like, how can we look so not like ourselves? And that's beauty. So, I mean, that's kind of already like a thing.
Yeah.
And then that goes along with like the digital personality. I mean, you look one way on the internet, you don't look like that in real life. It's separating that big time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So it's like they're prepping the mind already for this artificial reality.
Yeah. Yeah, they want that so bad. I don't know why. Like, they will do anything to kind of just see the consciousness. and just
Mm-hmm.
this like little like program to for people to believe, like before they even understand what is happening with the galactic shift and what is happening with the energies that are currently hitting the planet from the sun. Like, they do not like that's the worst. That's like the worst nightmare. You looking at the sun and realizing what the sun is doing and how it's going to harmonize all types of
Yeah.
energies, including the artificial grid. Um,
Yeah.
so, like, what are your thoughts on this event that's coming up? Like the event that is popular in the light working community. This anticipated happening. There's many optics on that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it's going to be like, and how that will relate to the artificial intelligent grid?
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, in terms of like the sun and the solar activity, it's so hyperactive right now. I've been on this journey for 2 years, and I cannot believe that this is not a part of our weather. And come to realize now, like, they don't want people like you and I talking about this stuff on platforms where millions of people are going to see it, which is why we need to try to get on platforms where millions of people will see it. So there's a lot of solar activity. It's affecting our electronics, right? It affects us, makes people really tired when there's a lot of solar activity. Those flares come into our atmosphere. We ingest them, kind of like how we ingest allergies. The sun activates DNA that's laid dormant. That's how people are able to pull in more truth frequency, really evolve and ascend naturally. Like, nature has its way of fixing itself, at least where we are at now with the earth and the sun. So the sun's activity is nature's way of fixing itself. I guess it conflicts with electricity. So we're noticing a lot of our electrical devices aren't working as well when there's more solar activity. And there's like increasingly more problems. I don't know about you. I try to observe things in my daily life and collect data in my daily life. And more than ever, it's like, oh, our systems are down, or, oh, my things are malfunctioning. And so, I pay attention to these things. So the solar event, I'm really hesitant to make predictions about the solar event, but I think as we get closer to it, it gets a little bit easier to wrap our heads around. And I think that I think within the next 3 years, take this with a grain of salt, but I think that the solar event, I think it's going to be a series of events, right? Just like we're already in it. Like, we're already in the event because the solar activity is the event. It's the solar energy activating people to walk out of this cave that we've been living in, right? So people like you and I, Jarrell, and people watching, it's our civic duty to help guide people out of this cave. And you kind of have to do it gradually because, metaphorically, if you just drag them out, they would go blind and it'd be really painful. So it's kind of this twofold thing. I think it's something that we're going to make happen. Like, it's an alchemical dance that we play with the earth and the sun. But it's also like we are responsible for keeping up with the energy, for utilizing the energy. So I don't think it's going to be anything like a rug pulled from underneath our feet. I think that we're going to be really well prepared for the solar event. I think we're going to know when it's really on the horizon. Like, I think we're getting there. And, I work with some people who I really trust. Brooks Agnew with X Squared Radio. He just has like this amazing ability to bring in a lot of really awesome ancient like Earth galactic history, and so does Laura Eisenhower. So you guys probably heard of her. But Brooks Agnew also, from a masculine perspective, he brings in a lot of this wisdom also, and he's saying that by the end of 2019, we're going to start to see the sky looking different, and it should probably be like, for the people that are like, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, it's going to be an event into which, well, now you're forced to believe it because the sky is looking a little different. And if you look up now, the sky is already looking a lot different. If you really pay attention, look up.
Yeah, the sky is totally different based off of when people age, maybe you're my age, have been growing up, or even older than that. Like, if you remember back, like the sun used to be yellow to me, and now you look up and it's white. and
Yeah,
pay attention.
I've heard that. Elderly people will say that.
Right. Yeah. And you pay attention to other phenomena. You look at the moon, like sometimes the moon is in one area of the sky, the next day it's like completely different in another area. And
Yeah.
the next day is really
Yeah.
a type of like um, a type of phenomena that you have to know for yourself because
Mm-hmm.
I've come face to face with flat earthers and I've had
Face to face.
actual debates and really like is based off of like just understanding for yourself to know for yourself because that's the only person who is going to get you through anything in your life.
Yeah.
Depending, if it's a spiritual shift
Yeah.
or if it's,
You got to
just
bring out.
whatever it is that you're going through in the potentiality of your development as a person. And most of it, I feel like we're ready for it. I feel like the
Yeah.
human race can handle it. And we've done it before, like on a soul level, we've done it before. Like if you understand the fifth dimensional shift, like your fifth dimensional self has literally done it before and they'll guide you through it. Just align with that version of yourself and you'll be fine.
Absolutely.
So, okay, I think it's the last question. So who or what are your biggest inspirations for continuing the fight, the good fight for humanity?
So I would have to say like this community that is growing, connecting with people like you and connecting with, my peers in the real life interactions, the boots on the ground interactions are the most impactful. While this is super impactful because this helps spread the information, it's planting seeds, spreading the information for others to get boots on the ground. So I would have to say like the people that I'm meeting with the most incredible integrity and the greatest, it's not a competition, but the greatest love for humanity is what really keeps me going, and that authenticity. And, along the way, also recognizing where people are implants that are trying to derail the movement. So, we're here now to say, no, stop what you're doing because we are doing this whole other thing. We see you. We know what you're doing. And the jig is up. It's game over for those people. The ufology community has gotten very divided. And so even within the last 6 months, I would say there is this really interesting resonance where we're just kind of we just resonate towards people that are like-minded, and then we find out that we're really energetically been working together for a very long time, and we're now just meeting in this 3D life and starting to make some plans, do some work. So I would say that. And then also, I know that I've done this before. Like, I know that this is kind of like what I'm good at as a soul, as a spirit, an ascended master type archetype. And so definitely gives me the confidence to do what I do. Like I have this really funny fearlessness. I have this really funny confidence that had to come from somewhere, right? It's just because, I know that this is what I'm good at and I've done this before. And, it's really just kind of like a no BS operation. And so it's interesting when you have these no BS people, our DNA is being activated and upgraded, and we're starting to embody more of our soul aspects. And these soul aspects that many of us have, and this goes for everybody, your soul aspects have so much power. It's incredible. Human beings are an incredibly powerful race of extraterrestrial. Like, we're extraterrestrial. Well, I guess we are on Terra, right? Gaia, Earth, Terra. But we're aliens to aliens. So, like, we're aliens. Aliens exist, right? But we're a coveted species because of how powerful we are at our true nature. And we've been in this prison planet that was manipulated by malevolent extraterrestrials, and we're now breaking free of that. So yeah.
One of the things you said, people are very, very powerful. That's why I feel at least this artificial intelligence is so interested in assimilating humanity and getting into their own energy and siphoning off that energy for itself, because it knows the true and raw power of a person, whether they realize it or not. And, Another thing you said was implants in the population. Um, last question, just for fun. Like, there's people out there.
I think I know what you're going to say.
There's people out there. If you look at them, they're kind of like, you look into their eyes. Like, if I look into the CEO of Facebook's eyes, Mark Zuckerberg, I can tell that like there's something missing there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's totally human anymore. He might have had something done.
Yeah.
He's such an advocate of artificial technology. Do you
Yep.
think cyborgs or androids could be inconspicuously like implanted around in
Yeah.
the population?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know what you mean about Mark Zuckerberg. It's like the light is on, but like nobody's home. And that's becoming a more profound thing you're seeing in a lot of people. And then also, I'm like thinking that there are multiple clones of people. I mean, I don't know what Elon Musk's agenda is as far as he's good or bad. And, this is really just kind of a joke. I'm just throwing this out there. But I'm like, I look at people differently now in the media because I'm like, that dude doesn't look like the same dude that was just on this other show. So I'm like, are there like multiples of these people? Like, I truly think that Eminem is cloned. I truly think that Christina Aguilera is cloned. I know that this technology exists from widespread MILAB testimony. A lot of MILABs are aware that they have been cloned. In military industrial complex, they use clones to, I mean, how else would you get somebody to live underground and just focus on one thing? They would have to be not human. So yeah, there's a lot of this type of energy walking around. There's a lot of people possessed by other agendas. I mean, we've seen it in our community where it's like somebody that, and it's like you said, like, and they might not have always, like, they might have been, really authentic at one point, but something intervened and changed them. And I think that's just going to be kind of like an ongoing thing, is just seeing all these changes in people. And you're like more and more like the light's on, but nobody's home, or, you're working for a different kind of agenda now. And there are just some people, like, it's been said that CNN anchors are, not all of them, right? Some of them are really just that brainwash, but you have to be pretty soulless to speak for CNN because they're the biggest perpetrators of creating a false matrix reality. This is the kind of news that kills people. And what I mean by that, that's a quote from Richard Dolan. But what we mean by that is, when you continue to pump out this false narrative, even if you are just listening to it, not like taking it in, you're just kind of hearing it, it's still creating a false resonance that is going to result in the demise of your experience here on Earth. Like, if people are really falling victim. So anyways, like, they gotta have these androids, clones, robotic, biotech, whatever. They gotta have them around, because who would do this crap if they weren't like just totally possessed or
Yeah.
So I'll probably get some slack for that answer. I probably have to fine tune my answer a little bit better, but I'm not afraid to say things out loud because I know that words are creation. So if I say something really ridiculous, like, I'm going to get like energetically slapped by, my guys are going to be like, don't ever say that again. That was just really far out there. So it's good to think out loud. It's good to collaborate on these things. And I do know that cloning is absolutely a technology that is really popular. I mean, look at that guy, Kid Boo. Like, he's talking about being a clone. Like, they clone people.
Yeah, he might have just been paid to say that just for the agenda, because once they sign
Sure.
on, they basically own whatever they say and do, like, from the get-go. Especially if they'll do anything for money. Like, CNN anchors will literally say anything for money. Like, Rachel Maddow.
And they're pretty soulless.
Yeah, Rachel Maddow, she makes $30,000 a day.
Ugh.
Like, she will not stop, and it doesn't matter how ridiculous the storyline is. But we're running out of time here. I just wanted to thank you for doing this again. This is the second interview I had with you, and I'm totally grateful and appreciative of your time to take out of the day. Can you please tell our audience where they can find you for a session if they'd like to work with you?
Yeah, so I have clients that are going through the ascension. They're kind of confused as to what's happening with them. My business is New Earth Consulting, www.newearthconsulting.com. The difference is I do not charge. I, do this because this is kind of like trying to get away from the monetary paradigm. So I collect donations, though. If you guys wouldn't mind, you feel guided to. Research doesn't pay, right? This work doesn't pay, but we still are kind of living in the system. And that's why I do donations, PayPal, Patreon, and GoFundMe. So newearthconsulting.squarespace.com. I have a YouTube channel where I do updates pretty much every other day. Lauren Pritchard, Ascension, and you can find me on Facebook also. Please send me a message though, because I have a long friend inbox, and I do live videos on Facebook and on YouTube semi-regularly.
All righty. There you have it, everybody.
And I also collect MILAB testimony. So if you are wondering if you could be a military abductee, I've become, naturally, I've just become somebody that people are coming to, and this is what we're uncovering. So I have a lot of information in terms of military abductees, sleepers that are now just starting to wake up.
Wow.
So you can have abilities that you don't know where they came from. You're having weird dreams. You're having just a lot of things that are happening to you, supernatural things, subconscious things that you're trying to make sense of, and definitely help people in that department also.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, check her out. And we are going to end the broadcast. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, Lauren, thank you again. And
thank you, Jarrell. Thank you, everybody.
I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Thanks. Bye.